I got frustrated trying to get on as usual.
Oh, it's a. Oh,
Tried to get on right at 7 o'clock, and now I'm a couple minutes late.
mine says 4 minutes.
Anyway, I think I'm live.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
live. Yes.
Yes, I'm live. Welcome to our podcast. This is Bob and Danielle with a warm hello and a warm welcome. You're here with us to fight CPS and stop taking our children. Yeah, that's true. CPS does take our children. Sad state of affairs. But all you listeners, you found us by going through Facebook, How to Fight CPS, and you found our podcast. There's several other kinds of podcasts. But our podcast is interactive. And we have Lori, who is a regular show up. She doesn't say much, but she talks about, I think, her son named William.
Okay.
And I have no idea where Lori's from, but welcome, Lori. Glad to have you. And Lori is demonstrating one of the first ways to interact with our podcasts, and that's by texting a message. You can text a message of your questions or concerns about CPS, and we'll try to help you. We're not professional lawyers, but we both have had many years' experience fighting CPS, and we've talked to loads of people. I think I've talked to over 500 people in 6 months, and
Wow.
I've been talking to every state, and I've also talked to social workers. I'm so glad I got to talk to a social worker. I hope I can talk to more social workers because my program is open to you all. In fact, I have, besides the texting, I have people from other countries that text us. All I ask is your name and then the city, the state, and the country. And so we have right now Australia, Canada, United Kingdom, Ghana, Mexico, and Mozambique in Africa, the east side of Somalia. By the way, Ghana is south of Venezuela, north of Brazil and South America. And we have Denmark, which is in Europe. So we've had these individuals call and express, and Danielle's actually heard them too. And they say that their cases in CPS is awful. And when I say CPS, I mean the Child Protection System. Every state will have a different acronym. Mine in California is CPS, Child Protection Services. Danielle's is, go ahead, Danielle.
DFCS, it's Department of Family and Children Services.
Right, that's hers. And then I know Arizona is Department of Children's Services. And the reason why I'm picking on Arizona is they had a horrific incident happen 2 years ago in Prescott, Arizona, where 8 social workers decided to be smart and wear T-shirts, pink T-shirts they had made. And on the front, it said professional kidnappers. On the back, it said, parents, do you know where your children are at? That is the most horrible thing. And thank you, Danielle, for putting it up there. Those are 8 social workers from Prescott, Arizona in 2022, proudly displaying their T-shirt. Their inside motive or anything, they're horrible. This is your CPS. This is really sad that CPS has gotten this far. That tells you something. And a lot of you has expressed where your children are. My children were taken, they weren't in immediate danger. And they were taken on hearsay by lay people who were trying to steal our children, my wife and I. Those lay people were the relatives, and they were really they did a number on me. And CPS is bad. I mean, Danielle has a son that was in the CPS system that needs special needs. And when she came back, her mother had passed away. God rest her soul. Sad that she loses her mother. But the child was taken from her mother. No effort was made to find the mother, the biological mother. And, Danielle's going through the grieving process to lose her mother and then finds out her son now is in CPS hands, and they're trying to ship him because Georgia can't handle a special needs child and ships him to Texas. Meanwhile, he turns over 18. He's lost. And she's finally found him, and she's trying to adopt him. Not adopt him, but try to be a guardian of him as an adult. You see, that's one thing you got to understand there. When a child turns 18, they're on their own. CPS no longer has them. They're going to try to because they want to get money. But you have to do adult guardian if it's a special needs child. And she has a brother that
Yep.
she's trying to do adult guardianship with her brother after it gets her son aboard because he's a special needs. So
Mhm.
that's so great. Danielle's a wonderful mother. I know it's after Mother's Day, but I want to again wish all the mothers out there warm hugs and your beautiful mothers for having your children. Um, Another way besides texting to interact with our show is to call in, and I have a number right there. And I wish you guys would call at the beginning of the show. A lot of you don't wait to 5 minutes still or after the show to call in. That number's good for an hour. It's 626-698-0990. You call in, that's my office phone. We've been going for 10 minutes. Excuse me. We've been going for
Please share.
5 minutes. 5 minutes
You
and
go
almost
share
50
it.
seconds. So if any of you listening out there, you want to be part of this and want to get your questions answered, it's so great that you call in.
Mhm.
Not on cam, and we do try to help you. Danielle has some ideas. I have some ideas. We have things that helped with our program that can help you. I have 3 rules I've
Right.
come up with. One day that maybe Danielle will come up with some more rules, get more rules for you to follow
Right.
by. But the rules I have are some that will help you in the long run because right now you're in a nightmare system. CPS cannot be trusted. So
A big
please
one I've
call in.
learned is be consistent, be persistent, consistent, and be like just keep at it. I know it's exhausting, but just keep going. Because once you slack off, there's no room for error. That's what sucks. I mean, but even though they cause a lot of error, but with us, if you're persistent and don't back down, even when they push harder, don't back down, don't give up. And that's where just know there's other parents out there that you're not alone. We are all in this together. And
I agree.
so, yeah, and I mean that's what we're here for, to help one another, give you strength and determination and motivation that hey, we can do this because you have a fundamental right to raise your child. It's your rightful. So go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, I agree. Wow, what did I put that on there for? Now I lost my train of thought. We were talking about how they interact with the room there. Oh, another way you can interact is be a guest on the show, and that involves emailing my producer, our producer, which is Grace. She's a beautiful lady, hardworking, works behind the scenes. I want to thank her, and she can be reached by emailing her, Grace at vincentwdavis.com.
Mm-hmm.
That's Grace at
Oh,
vincentdavis.com. And so you can go ahead and email her and tell you what show you want to be on.
10 minutes.
Hi, this is Bob Pace and Danielle. Welcome.
Hi. So I've been watching your broadcast on a Facebook page.
Oh, good.
Awesome.
I'm calling in to talk about my experiences and get some insight.
Okay.
I am so glad you do. What is your name?
My name is Kay.
Kay. Okay, glad to meet you, Kay. That's another Kay I know from Kentucky. Where are you from?
I'm from Texas.
And what part of Texas?
Texas.
What part of Texas?
Harris County.
Harris County.
Oh boy.
Which nearest city is that near?
Harris County, is that League City?
What city?
It's Houston.
Houston. Okay. That's your
Okay.
next major city. Okay.
Is that near League City?
Harrison County, and you must have a CPS case, correct?
That sounds
No, but I wish I did. That's actually what I was calling
Oh,
in
wait
on.
a minute.
So
What do you mean you wish you did?
I've had the unfortunate experience of reporting some pretty deplorable things that have happened to my 10-year-old daughter, and was waiting to hear from CPS for where I could take her to an assessment center, and they completely closed out my case without ever having me go. They just ignored it.
Well, that's good. They didn't try to take your daughter?
Yeah, it's my daughter. But the thing about that is last year in January, I was assaulted and went to an emergency room for help, and I tested positive for drugs at the hotel or at the emergency room, and they took my daughter from me to go live with her father. And then some stuff happened to her while she was there with him, but I had been keeping her from him. And CPS in that case bombarded me, and it was a nightmare. It went on for 9 months.
Oh.
And they didn't listen to any of the things that my daughter was saying was going on. They were attacking me, even though I'm the protective parent. And then she had come back to live with me. And when I reported the stuff that she reported to me, which was what I was supposed to do, CPS came in and they called the perpetrator and listened to everything that he had to say about me, and then came after me again. And then when I didn't test positive for drugs and everything was okay and could have a nice home for her, they exited out and closed out the case and never investigated the things that she was saying.
Oh,
the police closed the case
Kay,
completely.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad.
I'm
I'm trying to tell you, do not reach out to CPS. They're not your friend, and they will deceive you. They will steal your
sounds
child. They will kidnap your child. Trafficking. They will traffic your child.
wholeheartedly.
And I'm
They
trying to tell you is that you are so.
I've been told to sue CPS, but I can't find an attorney. Like CPS, state intake department told me that I should sue CPS because of how they treated me, but I can't find an attorney to take the case either. Like, it's been an absolute nightmare dealing with them.
And it is hard to find an attorney that's.
They don't go after the perpetrators. They go after the protective parent, and they're looking for good, pretty, healthy kids that are well behaved.
Yes.
And they're kidnapping kids, and they want kids that can be adopted out because that's where the money is.
There's
They're actually there to help the kids and protect the kids.
Well, it's a $50 billion business. I mean, billion. And they take, when they open a case, they don't have to have the kids in their custody, but when they open the case, right away they get $20,000 per child per month. Then if the child needs additional services, they get more money. And it's a money-making thing.
Special needs child.
So, like, especially, and right now,
special needs, they get
as a special needs child. And
I got a son that's in Texas right now in a facility.
She has a son in Texas right now that turned 18, was lost in the system of CPS that has special needs, and she's trying to be the guardian because he's over the age of 18.
Yeah, and I'm in Georgia. And he's in League City, Texas, at a facility called Devereaux. Yeah, and they sent him out there for
states. What happened is that state, Georgia, had no way of taking care of special needs, shipped him off to Texas at Devereaux, and then he turned 18, and then CPS thought they still had possession of him, and then Danielle found out, and
because they contacted none of my family, like none.
The child was in the care of her mother who died. And when Danielle found out, it's devastating to lose your mother. There's no question about that.
Yeah.
But I went to get my son, and my aunt had took him from the home and hid him out for me and then gave him to the state. And that was the whole point of the guardianship, was because my family to help keep him away from the state's hands. And that's been like that since 2011. And then for my aunt to do this, it's created a big, and they thought that I abandoned my kids. I never did. I've always been in his life. It's just my mom unexpectedly passed away suddenly. And, it's like, when somebody kicks you while you're down, it was not, I would never have expected this out of my family member or the department or the state.
I'm so sorry that you're having. I can't imagine what that's like as a parent to be dealing with.
You are so lucky
with a child that's in a facility.
You're so lucky to contact the CPS. I started my show off with pictures of the pink ladies in Prescott, Arizona.
Yeah, I got you.
Who their attitude about a child is that they are professional kidnappers. And on the back of their T-shirts, they put, "Parents, you know where your children are." That is the mentality. So there you go. See the picture of the pink ladies? Those are 8 social workers from Prescott in 2022 walking around in department stores with the word "professional kidnappers" on their chest, and on the back, "Parents, you know where your children." That's the mentality of CPS. And you're I've talked to probably 15 people in Texas, and they say Texas is awful. And I just can't believe that you're able to get your children back. That is a miracle, because you're one of the few success stories. Because as soon as they get a hold of your children, they want that money.
Yeah. So
I had to fight really, really hard. And,
How did you did you get an attorney in court? Did you get an attorney in court?
No, I contacted the ombudsman for the state and asked for a review of the case and provided medical records to the state supervisor for my social worker. So
Really?
in Texas, and this may be information that'll help you, ma'am. In Texas, if you contact the ombudsman, then they file a formal complaint with the supervisor, and then the supervisor's supervisor. So the CPS is broken up into territories here, and so like Houston, Austin, Dallas, it's a region, and they have somebody who's above all of the social workers and all of the supervisors, and the state ombudsman will put you in touch with that person.
Because I am dealing with both churches. That's what's
Ombudsmen have not worked. You're the first parent that ever said a ombudsman works. Most of the people that have contacted ombudsman, it goes in one ear and goes out the other ear.
It sounds like Texas is broke down in different. Go ahead, Bob.
They have another person called a CASA, a court appointed. Right, and they are nothing but ears for CPS.
Right. So the ombudsman.
And the ombudsman was the same way, but you must have really, wow, I'm just so impressed with you, Kay. You're the first person, over 500 people I've talked to that's successful to call in to complain to CPS because you're a lay person and you're making an alleged complaint against your husband.
Right.
And they in turn, it's stupid because, I'm just surprised.
I heard out here in Georgia, the ombudsman.
I made the complaint, and then I got investigated, and then I had to prove myself, but they never investigated the person who. It is stupid. I can provide a number privately. I'm not sure how to reach you, Mr. Bob, but I can provide a number for the CPS regional director.
Sure, I can go ahead and that. What you could do is. You could go ahead on my phone that you're calling in.
Yeah.
And
that 626 number
is that 626 number 6980990. Put your name in there, put down Texas, and then you say, here is the number for a good contact for the busman in Texas, and do the number, and I'll get the text messages. I get all my text messages, and during the show I review my text messages or I miss calls. I can't spend time during my shows to deal with it, but I do that. So
she said she's seen it on Facebook. Did she just see it as a post, or was it in a group, or how did she find out?
How'd she get the number?
No, the podcast.
Oh.
On Facebook, there's a page called CPS Horror Stories, and they broadcast the stuff that you guys are doing. So I don't know if that's your page or if it's somebody using your content and you just happen to be doing the live broadcast right now, but that's how I found your show.
Right. I do my podcasts 7 days a week, twice a day at 10 o'clock.
The reality series.
For an hour and everything in there. And I have two podcasts. One is Bob Pace Fighting CPS. The other one is Fight CPS, Stop Taking Our Children. And there are other podcasts that are done by Vincent W. Davis, and they're all duplicated. They're in my room right now. I have the law offices and associates in my room. I also have the
reality series,
The Secret How to Fight CPS and Win. That's Mr. Davis's own podcast. Then I have the horror stories, which is where you came from, and then I have the juvenile dependency child thing. So where you come from is why did you pick us, or why did you pick me?
Well, I've been watching your show now for probably the last month or so, and I just play it when it's on. And I came on tonight and was like, I'm going to go ahead and call in, and I'm going to share a little bit about my story, and I'm in support of what you're trying to do to raise awareness, because I'm dealing with Texas, and if there's another mom that's dealing with Texas and the lack of support that you get and the criminal behavior of this organization, then I'm here to help.
Thank you so much, Kay. Thank you so much. Yeah, that's okay. Now, we've had a social worker on here from Maryland a couple weeks ago, And she talked for 40 minutes about how good her program was and was horrid to hear me. But she did listen to me. And we don't know if she was a plant or what, but she gave a real name and she said she was from Maryland. And she says that she's a clinical psychiatrist, so she supposedly is well trained. And she says the Maryland CPS workers, social workers, go through additional training for 6 months, which I'm not able to find that because I have investigated Maryland. I've had 3 or 4 people from Maryland say it's awful there. So, I'm so glad that you found us and you picked me, because I feel honored that you picked me, because I'm trying my best to make my show to help parents, because most of the people out there are not very knowledgeable of CPS. You don't have a manual. You don't know what CPS is all about. And when you have a rogue organization that wears T-shirts that says professional kidnappers, and you have social workers that are not transparent, that are deceitful, that lie, that do everything under the sun to take your children and put them into foster care. And I know firsthand. See, I have 6 children, and then 3 of them were taken. My older ones were too old for them to take, and they were out living on their own anyway. But one of my children was stolen by CPS and told to divorce the parents, change her name, seal her birth certificate, and join an adopted family. She's 21 now. She's not with her adopted family, and she's really a lost girl right now. My sons are keeping in touch with her, and so, which I encourage them. I encourage that, but she has not come back to us as parents. But I lost it. I really lost it, and I'm so sad about my daughter. But anyway, that's something you have to live with. But Kay, can you help me a little bit about the do's and don'ts of what you did and everything? Because I really like to share that with the listeners, because maybe there's some clues that would help the other listeners, because you did just the opposite. You're a mother that had children. You didn't know what to do, so you went and turned to CPS, which you should be able to, because they're supposed to protect your children from abuse and neglect. That's what the agency should be. And at first, they, I guess they did try to investigate your husband, or what did they do at first?
No, they never tried to investigate. They asked me for his phone number.
No.
I provided the information. I told them what was going on. I asked them, please don't contact him. He's the perpetrator in this. And they were like, okay, well, we have to do an investigation. Well, by the time they talked to me, they had already talked to him. And he was like, yeah, she, was on drugs and she did all this bad stuff. And I did, I was assaulted in a hotel room and went to the police because something happened. Like, I went to an emergency room. I woke up with bite marks and a black eye. And,
did you file for a restraining order?
So I tried to file for a restraining order 4 months before I was assaulted in a hotel. And I was told that I didn't have enough evidence. And I had filed a police report about stalking and the things that were going on in our world, and pictures that I found online of my assault. So clearly something was going on. I was trying to get help, but I was labeled as a, quote, mental health case with the local police. So there was no traction there. Thankfully, now I do have a detective. But when I went into the emergency room and told them, I don't know how this happened. I woke up in a hotel. I've been going to the emergency room for months, waking up with needle marks and bite marks on my breast and bruises that I couldn't explain, wearing clothes. I didn't go to sleep. And I mean, it was absolutely terrifying what we were going through.
Was he using a drug? Was he using a drug to drug you out?
Yes, ma'am. Sure, yes,
wow.
sir.
It's a date rape drug.
I figured out last I was around springtime that it was GHB, and I figured that out. No. I made myself a drink. I mixed vodka and Red Bull or Monster, and when I took a couple drinks off of it, I started to get very, very tired, and that shouldn't happen.
Wow.
And then I poured the vodka in my sink and realized it was clumping, and it shouldn't. And then I did that with my daughter's cranberry juice, and it did the same thing. And I know enough to know that that's GHB, so I reported that to the police. And of course, you look like a lunatic, but that's the whole point of it. So it's just terrifying. And then during that time, I was calling the ombudsman. I did text those numbers to you too. So
Thank
I
you.
did call the ombudsman. I made a complaint against the hospital where I had gone, and I made a complaint against the CPS caseworker. I made a complaint against the supervisor on the case because of how I was treated, and they closed out the case. And then 2 months later, my daughter shared information with me that needed to be shared. So I contacted CPS. I did all of the stuff I was supposed to do. They came out and investigated me as the perpetrator again.
Oh, wow.
And it was just, it was a nightmare. You know, I'm like, I'm trying to get you guys to listen to what I'm saying is happening. And my abuser is behind this, and you're listening to them question my mental state and tell you all these terrible things. Nobody thinks I'm a bad mom except for my abuser and my daughter's abuser, but you're not listening to that. So they opened up another case. They wanted me to go take a hair follicle and urine. I passed. And then they ended up, I just found out that they closed out the case completely in November of last year without investigating him. In November of last year, my daughter's therapist, who specializes in early sexual intervention for child trauma, like if a child had that specific kind of trauma. So her therapist had actually filed with CPS because of things that she disclosed. CPS called the state intake department and was like, you should get a lawyer and you should sue CPS because this is ridiculous. I see what's going on here. Your therapist has been, or your daughter's therapist has been very, open about the things. You're obviously a protective parent. Keep working with the police, and keep, we'll tell you when to take her to an assessment center. Well, that was November. I just found out last week that the detective, they closed out my case completely for my daughter because she was never taken to an assessment center, but CPS never contacted me to take her to an assessment center.
And did you ever get the police report, like of sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but the reason why they closed it out, like, is that on, like, in the report?
So I've never seen a report. I never received any contact whatsoever from CPS. Nothing.
What about the police department? Like, did you ever?
Told me to file a lawsuit against CPS.
Question: Did you?
The detective said they were reopening everything, and I filed another complaint with the ombudsman with my case number. And I would say that the biggest thing that I did was I was intentional, and I called almost every day to the ombudsman.
You have to be. You're that good. Good. That's awesome.
Shut down. Who do I file a complaint with? And I filed formal complaints against everybody that was involved.
That's what's up.
Excellent.
That's awesome. You were persistent and consistent with it, and stuck with it, and I would keep sticking with it and get that report, whatever, with the police department. Like, did they give you a report number, like a police report number for the case?
I have a police report number, and nothing happened with it. They have reopened my daughter's case, and then I have my own case that took 2 years, but I did get to go in and do a forensic interview, and they're fully investigating what happened to us now. So it was a nightmare situation, and it sounds so fantastic, but there are people going through this, and that's why I'm an advocate about it. There are men out there who come in and target single moms with homes and children because we just want companionship, and they come in and do really bad things to you and your children. And I think people need to know about that, because then when the relationship ends, I know 3 different women that this is happening to. They're calling CPS and trying to get the children removed as revenge for the woman breaking up with them.
I agree. They use lay people will do that. What I mean by lay people, I'm talking about brothers, sisters, family, friends, in-laws. Those are lay people. Yep. Professionals are teachers, firemen, policemen, doctors, nurses. So lay people use CPS to get avenged because, say, a neighbor's dog is barking, or the bushes are overgrowing. They want to be spiteful. They want to say there's something going on, and they know that CPS is corrupt, and they know that CPS will make your life like hell, which that you found out. Did you think in the beginning when you're getting involved about getting an attorney?
She's looking for.
It was cost prohibitive.
Okay.
There was no way I could afford one. Even now, having been told by CPS, like, yeah, you have you have a lawsuit against CPS for pain and suffering and damages done to you and your daughter for what they did to you.
Okay,
Like,
one thing
even
is
knowing, like,
you
CPS
cannot
is
sue.
legit.
Yeah, you
I've never
cannot.
been a-
You cannot sue CPS for pain and suffering. You cannot do that.
Emotional
You can
distress.
sue them for violation of your constitutional rights and your
rights.
civil rights.
Look up the civil rights.
You cannot sue them for pain and suffering.
What kind of attorney have you been looking for? Like under what? I didn't hear that. What'd she say, Mom? What'd she say?
I said they definitely infringed on our civil rights and freedom.
Yes,
and
that's where you
a
sue
horrible
them.
situation. They
Look
placed
for
her
us.
with someone who was someone I was keeping her from because I thought he was abusive, and then she ended up being abused.
And you cannot sue them until your case is over.
They closed it.
Well, my case is over.
Okay,
I
you
can't
can
find
sue
anybody.
them. The
So
problem is
civil
it takes
rights.
an attorney, and there are attorneys that will sue CPS. Our attorney that
Vincent.
hosts this podcast, Vincent Davis, will sue, and he has one civil court. I mean, he has one in both the federal and the state civil courts. He's done civil lawsuits and won millions of dollars. So, but the thing is, it takes money to sue. I know that's the hardest thing there, because that's why I ask you, could you afford an attorney back there? Because without an attorney, you're hopeless against them. They will do what they want, and they will deceive you, and they're not transparent, and you're just in a nightmare. In fact, I'd like to mention my number one rule, if you don't mind, Kay, and if you can listen to me too, don't go anywhere. But to all you listeners out there, I have a rule. It's called number one, and it's for this reason. It's the one thing that will help you, and it's the hardest thing to do. You need a attorney. It's just like if you need surgery done on your heart, are you going to have a plumber do it, an automatic mechanic? Are you going to do it? Or are you going to get a layman to do it? No, you get a professional doctor. That's what you need in CPS. You need a family attorney, a law attorney that's worked in dependency court, that knows how to fight in dependency court, that has fought CPS and fight there. And people that says, I can't afford. Well, there's something called pro bono, and people maybe tried it, but it does work. It takes a lot of time. But, that's one thing. Knowledge is power, and the internet is so full of knowledge about CPS. I've learned so much on what I know. If I knew what I knew now, in 2015, when my kids were stolen, I could have stopped it. I could have stopped it dead in their tracks. And so I'm trying to tell you that, the court-appointed attorney is useless. You don't want a court-appointed attorney because their caseload's 30. They won't talk to you to the day of the hearing, and all they're going to try to do is push things around. They won't fight for you. So you can forget about those attorneys. So I mentioned pro bono. Pro bono is attorneys that do not charge, that they care enough, or they have enough cases that they do 3 or 4 cases for free. And how you do that is that what you would do is you'd say, fine in Harrison County and Houston, a pro bono family law attorney. Now, I arranged the words so that fine is your search word, the city is Harrison County, your county, and the closest big city is Houston. And then you say family law attorney, and that's going to give you a list of maybe 20, 30, 40 names. And from that list, you look at it very carefully and see whether some of the law firms fight CPS or they look pretty good. From that list of 20 or 30 names, or if it's only 10, you pick the 10. And what you're going to do is you're going to call them real quickly down the list of 10 and say, are you in business? Do you fight CPS? Have you won cases against CPS? Are you a family law attorney? Have you done work in dependency court? Those are the questions you ask. So you find the ones that are saying yes. And from that list of 10, you narrow it down to 5 that you're going to do a consultation. And that's what I tell everybody to do, a consultation. And Vincent Davis is one of those you can consult with. He does require a retainer, but you may like him. And, I had to sell my home to get Mr. Davis. So that's how I got him and paid for his fees. But you want to give him a call. And it's at 888-888-6582. And when you talk to him, tell the office Bob Pace sent you. And then when you speak to Mr. Davis, say that Bob Pace sent you. And he'll talk to you for 30 minutes for $60. That's $2 a minute. But the other 4 other attorneys that you found from the list of 10, you want to call them also because you want to see if you get one for pro bono. But meet with Vincent Davis, talk to him, and he will, talk about his retainer. And he does out of state. He will fight out of state. He's one of the best CPS fighting attorneys in the country. He's a great family law. He has 35 years of business. He's a trial attorney.
Smart. Very detailed.
He's a trial attorney. He has a podcast you can listen to too. So I'm telling you, all the listeners, including you, Kay, that if you want to talk to him for $60, that's great. And they can tell you some of the strategies of fighting CPS and getting your kids back. But what you did is something that I tried to do. You went to the top. I tried to do that with the director of CPS in Orange County. I got nowhere in Orange County, California. That guy was the Taj Mahal building, and he was so rich with gold around his neck, I thought he'd fall over. And, he went in one ear, went out the other ear. And it was the Emerald City, the green Emerald City building. And so going to the top didn't work for me for a year, so I had to get Mr. Davis. And he got my 2 boys back. We lost our daughter. But I found out that CPS was really bad. So all you listeners out there, remember rule number 1. Remember rule number 1. And there's a ticket across the screen that takes you to a website that you can check his calendar. It's called Consultation with Attorney Vincent Davis, care of Bob Pace, Candidly.com, Law Office of VEWD /Bob Pace. Go there, and that's another way you can check his schedule and so forth. So all you listeners out there, if you want to fight CPS, navigate them. It's fine because you're going to be like Alice in Wonderland in that rabbit hole, lost at all the doors, off with your head. Alice in Wonderland is a terrible story, but it's just like CPS. It's so true. It's a spider weaving a web around you. They'll suck you in. And I think you found that out, right, Kay? You found that out?
Yes.
Okay. So I know that at the time you didn't know about talking to Vincent Davis. If I knew what I knew now and got my attorney, I'd have my daughter back, and my kids would never have been taken out of the home. They weren't in extreme danger. Like a fool, I trusted CPS, and I allowed them to come into my home without permission and allowed them to take my children without my permission. And that's something that rule number 3 is about. I'll talk about that later, but I want to talk more about you, Kay, and what else. You gave us the number of the ombuds for the region. I think that's really great. I'll get that later, and I'll share that with Danielle. But since Danielle was fighting her child in Texas, and her child's a special need, are your children special need? I think you said they were.
Yes.
Do you know in Texas, are the Harrison County? I don't know if that's close to where's your place, Danielle?
Galveston County. Alex is in Galveston County.
It's Harris County.
Yeah,
Harris, Harris County, where Houston is. And it's like 45 minutes from Lake City. I'm familiar with Lake City.
Okay. Is there something that, do you think Danielle needs that number, the call? Because Danielle's having her son being returned, but CPS has still got their claws, and they're trying to make it hard on her.
Well, now the Texas, since they sent him out there.
To the number I provided you, the ombudsman complaint line, that's the direct line to file a complaint against CPS. And it's just a phone call. Like, you don't go on the web or anything. They get your case number. They're going to ask you for some information about the case. And then the burden of proof for why they're retaining your child, why they're keeping him, it falls on to CPS. And then I also provided you the number for the regional director for this area, because I believe she would also be the one you would talk to for Lake City.
Okay.
She's over multiple counties. So you can reach out to her, but if you reach out to that ombudsman complaint line, you're going to get a call from the lady I gave you the number for or the regional director for your area who's
Okay.
going to intervene on your case.
Okay, cool.
And then just be persistent. Keep calling and ask them, like, you know, what grounds do you have to keep my child? And you have to provide the evidence for why you're keeping him. Like, you should have a day in court to defend your right. Like, my daughter
they haven't even
autistic with dyslexia.
Yeah.
Okay.
My son's autistic and ADHD, so and then he's got some more things, like some new disorders, like OCD, but he's got it's a new one, but it's more like he gets impatient when somebody tries to, if his day's going good, he gets and if somebody tries to tell him something like to do better and he's already focused, it's like and it like ruins his whole day, and he goes, like, he gets very agitated. But you know, with him going through this trauma, it's well, they've got some other
that's autism, and then with autism comes severe adjustment disorder, and his life has been upended by CPS.
And he
in a facility now, so he has no sense of control or freedom, and then the hyper focus, and you know,
because he's out there, he's
interrupted from things.
Like,
you
like
know,
in Georgia. Go ahead, Bob.
I was going to say, Danielle just shared with me something called volunteer attorneys in Texas.
And they're not.
And they have a text or call number 214-892-2630. And that's for legal aid assistance for Texas family. 214-892-2630. And it's all volunteer.
And I've heard a couple
people.
people
share that with you. It's 214-892-2630.
And then I gave you the number for Houston, the area of Houston, Harris County. That's 713 right there. Is it in the private chat, Bob? And
there's another number, 713-931-7500. And that's Houston. What is that?
And that's the one for that area. That's Harris County. That's for that area. That number.
Yeah, it's 713-931-7500.
Okay.
And that's for Harris County area.
Houston. Those Texas attorneys may help you. They may help you with a lawsuit too, because maybe, you know, the thing about lawsuits is people don't realize, yes, CPS has a lot of money, but most attorneys charge an average of 30% of what fees you recover. So if it's a $5 million lawsuit, 30% of that, that's what the lawyer gets to keep. So any good attorney would love to do that kind of lawsuit, especially if it's a solid case.
And that website will also maybe be resourceful for her for Texas, because you can break it down into that area that she's in. And these are, and what I liked when I pulled it up was the fact that it says, if you're a lawyer in Texas and would like to give back to your community, this may be the conduit for you. So it's not like they're court appointed. These are actually lawyers that in certain areas have the compassion. So, I mean, that would be a starting point that maybe it can provide more resources, you know, for the pro bono. But that's, I mean, because usually when you hear about
the numbers, and I'm definitely going to give them a call, because I've spent countless hours on the phone trying to find a civil rights lawyer and trying to find, you know, somebody like a family law lawyer to go against CPS for what they did to my family. These kinds of things shouldn't happen. You trust an organization to help you, and they repeatedly just fail.
I'm going to send right now, it's going to go to all my people listening, but there's the website for the Texas attorneys. Do you see it?
It's under the comments. Under the website.
Yeah, I just sent it. All the different YouTube people follow me, but I just sent it to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is good. This podcast is good because we're here to share information. We're here to help out each other. You know, we care about you as individuals. We really do. And we're not here to, we're here to help you out. And I know that attorneys have to charge money. I know that, but good attorneys do. But Vincent is one of the kindest guys that you'll like, and he'll work with you.
I've heard.
All you have to do is call them at 888-888-6582. And for 30 minutes, that's worth it. If I knew about that in my case in the beginning, I would never have lost my daughter. I would never have my kids taken from my house. And that's
a nightmare.
That's one thing I need to emphasize to all of you listeners out there. Rule number 3 is you do not let police or social workers in your home. You do not talk to them. It's simply yes, no answers. Don't give anything because they're going to use it against you.
Right.
There was a young man that was just killed recently in Florida. He's a United States Air Force airman, and he's only like 24 years old. And he was talking to his girlfriend on FaceTime, the sheriff came out to investigate a disturbance, and it wasn't him. They think it was a mistaken residence, but apparently the sheriff, the way he handled the case, he knocks on the door, doesn't say anything. The guy inside is worried, so he grabs a gun, but he put the gun in his side, and the sheriff knocks again, says the sheriff opened the door. Now, I'm telling you all out there, do not open the door. I don't care who it is.
If they want to identify
themselves, they're going to have to bust the door down to open the door for me. They'll have to bust the door because they need a warrant to come into a home. They need a court order warrant to come into a home. Now, they can come in a home if there's shooting going on or a child is being slammed against the wall. If they hear that, they can bust the door down. But there was nothing going on in that apartment. The guy, the sheriff didn't even listen to anything. All he does, he bangs on the door, doesn't say anything, then bangs again, and he very gruffly didn't say, if you're in there, please be on the floor with your hands behind your head. I'm going to come into the door. There's nothing like that. You see, I don't understand policemen why they're so hot and heavy they want to kill somebody. Why? They go through special classes how to be good shooters. They can shoot them on the floor. Why couldn't the sheriff say, attention in there, we have an investigation of some unknowns there. Please, if you're behind that door, put your head down and put your hands behind your head. And so what the policeman did, the door was open and the policeman saw the guy with a gun in his side and fired. Didn't ask for anything else. And the guy died right there on the phone to his FaceTime with his girlfriend. So for all you out there listening, rule number 3, do not open the door for any reason. They have to have a court order. Do not talk to social workers. Do not talk to police. It's yes, no answers. An easy way to get away from it, if you're outside and you happen to run into them, just say, I'd like to talk to you further, but I need to talk to my attorney. You may not have one, but that will put them at bay. You ask for their business card. If they don't have it, you say, can I see your badge number? And your policeman will have a badge number. The social worker will have an ID, and you get their names because they will lie about their names. They will lie about that. So, rule number 3 is you got to be so careful. If you have a window next to the door and they have a warrant, you say, let me see the warrant. They can show it through the window. And the warrant is got to be the wet signature of the judge, a court-ordered judge, and it's got to say the name of the person they're coming to investigate, the children involved, the allegations, the date and time and address of the place, and what they would need to do. They need to take your children or they need to search your home. And that's got to be with a court order. And I didn't do that in my case. I let everybody come in my case. I was stupid because I was letting every Tom, Dick, Harry, and I told them my whole life history, my story to social workers. They used it against me.
I told them about my history and domestic violence and the struggle that I had been through to get away from it. And
with CPS workers,
I was helping, and then I found out that I was the perpetrator. Like somebody had called and complained against me, and I thought they were there because of the call that I had made, and everything that I said ended up being used against me, and I got treated horribly. It was horrible.
I'm sorry.
And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Was keep my daughter safe. I'm thankful for where we've landed at the end of it all, though. My daughter and I live in a protective, supportive community for survivors of domestic violence. CPS cannot come onto the property. They have to have a juvenile warrant specifically to get in here. The police can't come in here. Like it's very, very private. Like they're not allowed.
That's great to know that.
And they have an on-staff attorney that has, like, I don't have to worry about the things I went through. In Texas, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but in September of last year, they changed the laws. So you can no longer file a anonymous CPS report. And until those laws changed for about 2.5 years, I had back-to-back CPS reports. And sometimes I had concurrent in different counties because somebody was anonymously accusing me of things to my child while the whole time I was trying to keep her safe. And it always coincided with breaking up with someone. So these guys were using the end of the relationship as a reason. But then once the laws changed in September of last year, it's the first time I've been able to breathe since 2020 when this all started. I have not had a case now because you can't call in anonymously to make a case.
Yeah,
that is good news. I'm so thankful that you're sharing that to all you listeners.
It was like that everywhere.
Listen to what Kay's sharing with you. But, if you say just a yes-no answer to CPS, you're not being rude. And again, if you feel pressure from them, tell them, time out. I need to talk to my attorney before we go any further. That is a good idea because you get away. And if it was me again, I would have taken my 3 children and shipped them out of state.
Right.
And I would have done that just to protect them. And I would have, try to, get an attorney. I would have gotten Vincent Davis. I had to sell my home. It was sad. I had a beautiful home.
If you, in Texas, and I don't know what it's like in other areas, but in Texas, if you engage with them, then that opens the case. But if you don't respond to them, if you don't call them, if you don't,
it's all voluntary.
Because there were 17 CPS investigations against my oldest girl's dad. 17. And 17 times he completely just ignored it. He did nothing. And they have to respond and see the children within a certain amount of time. And if they can't and they're not able to access the children, then they have to close out the case.
Right.
They're not allowed to keep it open.
Well, they have to within 24.
With
the allegation, they have to within 24 hours start the investigation, and then within 48 hours they have to have completed the investigation.
Yeah.
Danielle,
and if they can't, and they keep coming by and trying to access the children, and they're not able to gain access to the children or access to the home, they will close out the case within 90 days.
Okay. Danielle, are you having
keep it open indefinitely?
Yeah, Danielle, are you having internet problems?
No, I was just hitting the wrong button. My touchpad on my laptop is very sensitive.
Maybe the sun was blowing up again and causing internet problems.
No, it's me. No, I keep hitting the touchpad and it keeps going off. I'm like,
so how old is your daughter?
She's 10.
Okay, and when did you first start to get involved? How old was she?
She was 8.
Okay. My daughter was 12, and she believed everything that social workers said, and so she was instructed to divorce her parents, to seal her birth certificate, to change her name, and to be adopted by a foster parent. She was told that, and she believed them. That's how bad CPS is. And the CPS worker was doing it as revenge because we caught her in a lie. Vincent Davis had her on the stand, and she lied because my wife's sister was trying to adopt her kids, and we were against that. And they were asking, do you have any domestic violence in your home? Oh, no, we don't. And the social worker knew, and she lied. She supported them. And he caught her in her lie. We have a perfect lawsuit. I just don't have the money to file a lawsuit.
And it's like
But anyway, this has been good, Kay. I appreciate you taking the time to share all this. It really, did you divorce your husband? Or are you guys separated? Or what is the issue with your husband?
Oh, no, we were divorced long before this ever started.
And when you guys got a divorce, how did the settlement of the children or the child do?
So I ended up with full primary custody of her.
Now, how did you do that?
I divorced him in 2020. It was finalized, and he didn't have a place to live, and had no way to provide for her. So, and he didn't want full custody.
Oh.
He wanted to be, fun dad. so he didn't fight me on it. And then when CPS started getting involved, then the came. I'm going to take custody of her. I'm going to, keep her. And you can't provide for her.
Well, because
and then
CPS is
since then that he was the perpetrator.
right. He thinks he's getting money from CPS. A lot of people think CPS hands out thousands of dollars.
No,
and it is a money making thing, but it's only for CPS to make the money.
Right.
Everybody else, it's like one of the people on the show said that she works as a check cashier at those check places, where you cash a check. And she said a parent came in there with a $14,000 check from CPS. She was a foster parent, and they were paying her $14,000.
Yep. Yeah, they don't pay blood. Like, they won't pay your sister or the child's aunt or uncle or grandparent or parent, but they'll pay foster.
They'll pay somebody else.
Into the foster care system, then they also make money.
Yes.
And then when that kid gets adopted out, they get more money for being able to place the kid with a home.
I agree.
The kids they can place are the good kids.
It's like a bonus.
The kids that are actually being abused, they're trying to take the kids that come from loving, supportive homes because those kids are the kids that they can adopt out. People want to adopt good kids. They don't want to adopt the troubled kids that really need CPS to intervene in their life. That's why they don't intervene in a child's life that's actually being abused or neglected. They're more likely to intervene in your middle class family's home where everything's in order because that kid is going to be emotionally stable and easier to adopt out.
Right. And they're horrible. It's like they got to meet a quota every month or something of the kids they need to get.
Is there anything we got about?
Bob,
you go ahead, Kay. Go ahead.
If you want to give Danielle my number, just ask someone to talk to because I am here in Texas. Danielle, I'm happy to help however I can. Be a resource or just be a listening ear.
Okay. You can send it to that.
Just text it to me. Just text it, and when you hang up, I'll read my text messages and I'll give them privately to Danielle.
Yeah. Thank you. Definitely.
Yeah, we got about 2 minutes left of the show. Is there anything else you'd like to tell our listeners that could help them, or anything else you'd like to share?
Just keep at it.
When you're dealing with CPS, don't take anything that they say at face value. They're very deceptive, and if you think that everything's in order in your home, you're in a far more dangerous situation than somebody who's actually abusing and neglecting their kids, especially when it comes to CPS. They want the good kids. They want the, middle-class kids from well-balanced homes. And I can't say that enough. They're going to be in your life, and they're going to make your life hell, and they're going to treat you like you're the person who's done something wrong, no matter what you've tried to do to keep your kids safe.
They'll treat you like you're in a criminal matter. They'll try to treat it like it's a criminal. And like you're being charged with something. But they have no proof. And they'll make you think that, and it's like they take the life right out of you. And it's exhausting. It is. I mean, it's crazy what they can do. I mean, that's our kids, But just keep being persistent.
Thank you for giving me the time to talk on the show tonight. I'm glad I called in, and I hope I provided some information.
You were excellent.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, and again, you can talk anytime on my show. I'm on. I have 12 shows 2 times a day, and you can email my producer Grace at vincentwdavis.com, and she'll gladly put you on my show. But you can always call. I'd love to hear an update, Kay, if something comes up. You gave us some really important information that I'm going to share with a lot of people. And so, you really are a lifesaver. And there's people from Texas all the time calling.
Well,
not
that's
the first person from Texas.
2 success stories right there that I've heard from Texas that have got their kids. Her, Miss Kay, and then someone else, Jessica Garner today. I heard that she got her kid back. So
well, I'm going to have to close the show. What will happen is that you're still connected to me on the phone, so don't worry about that. It's just all my listeners out there. And Danielle and I talk briefly after the show's over. But I want to thank you all for coming in to find out. I want you all, don't forget, Knowledge is the power. Go on the internet, find out everything in there, but don't stop fighting for your kids. I'll see you tomorrow at 10 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. 10 o'clock to Pacific Standard Time, and love to talk to you. God bless you. And this is Bob and Danielle and Kay signing off.
Bye, everybody.